wanted a place that I could add my own touch to and that wasn't too big and something that I could manage as a first-time buyer. I went into the whole buying process quite naively, actually. I didn't really know too much about it. So at first I wanted to get a flat, and then the more I looked into that, there was obviously costs associated with having a flat. I sort of moved away from a flat and realised that you could actually get more for your money with a house, and it was more of a project and you actually owned the whole building and you could sort of change it as you wish. So buying a house was more of an attraction. When I realised that I was going to start saving up and it was a goal that I wanted to achieve, buying a house, I've sort of monitored the prices, and being back home in London I realised just how expensive it is. And when I moved to Nottingham I sort of had a look, and when I got offered the job here I made sure that I did some research beforehand, and when I realised how affordable it was quite exciting, and to be honest that was sort of one of the main decisions to changing jobs. To be honest, I've never really looked into saving that much. It was just a eureka moment as such. I went into a bank one day at work and I just thought I need to start saving some money, and then spoke to an advisor at the bank, and he talked about the Help to Buy scheme, and I made sure that I just had that open, and I think it was £200 a month I put into that account, and without really thinking anything of it. And then a couple of years later there was quite a good amount of money in there, and then on the side I just set up another account just to make sure that I wasn't just wasting all the money I was earning. So I don't really know what triggered it, but again it was just reading in the papers that people got no money saved, young people can't afford to buy. So I think that sort of triggered me to do it subconsciously. I just sort of trimmed back what I was spending, maybe didn't buy new clothes as much or go out as much as I would have done, but I just made sure that I could live within my means and saved as much as I could, really. I think the hardest part was not knowing the process and almost going into buying blind, and trying to get an understanding of how long it would take, what other costs there were, how much money I need to save every month and set aside for the mortgage. Knowing that down the process things could go wrong maybe with the seller, or if something wasn't right with the house, there was always sort of that in the back of my mind. Having to invest the money into buying it and then not knowing 100% that the home was in good order was always in the back of my mind. But I found the right place and I took a lot of advice from people in the area, and I knew that the house was the right one. I managed to find a mortgage advisor through a friend of mine who'd also just bought his first house. I'd had a sort of brief look, and my dad was always saying, well, why don't you go with the bank? Why don't you go with who you're banking with? And actually looking back, they were like probably the worst rate going. So I think having someone that actually knew about it was really helpful. I think at first when I knew I was going to go and see the mortgage advisor, it was quite daunting, and I sort of expected someone in a suit and all quite serious. But when I got to know Michelle, my mortgage advisor, she was brilliant, and she just taught me through all the steps, and it actually just felt like I was talking to a friend. So that was really helpful, and she helped me out with almost every step of it. So it wasn't just a mortgage, it was getting the right solicitor, it was getting the funding in place. So I got a lot more value out of that than I was expecting. So I just stuck with one person and I trusted her advice. Having the mortgage advisor there actually sort of turned it into being quite an easy process in the end, and it sort of eased me, and I realised that actually it's not as hard as people make it out to be. To be honest, if I'd just gone into a bank and asked for a mortgage, I wouldn't have got the best deal and the best rate, and the process wouldn't have been as straightforward if I hadn't have used the mortgage advisor. I've always sort of had an interest in houses, and I wanted to own my own one, and to be able to do it relatively young has been rewarding. And I know that all the work that I've put in over the years and the money that I've saved has got there's been an end goal to it really now. So it's not as hard as people make it out to be, and I'd say to any young person, don't be afraid to go and ask for advice, and don't be embarrassed, because a lot of people don't understand the process, and I'll say that I didn't understand it. And you read a lot about young people just spending money and not having anything saved. So actually to prove people wrong that young people can actually achieve and buy their own place is really nice. And I'm sure that a lot of other people in my position are thinking the same thing, that actually young people are not as stupid as we're made out to be.